Hello, everyone. Welcome to Milwaukee Prenatal Yoga Community. My name is Pam. Today, we're going to go over some variations on sun salutations that can be used with a pregnant person. We've got 5 different ones to do in total. We'll do one that's completely on the floor. We'll do one that is seated on the chair, one that is using the chair, one that uses the wall completely, and one where we use blocks, a little bit more traditional, just modifying a sort of more typical sun salutation using blocks and making a few changes for pregnancy. So before we get started, I just want to mention a couple things. There's 3 kind of rules of thumb that we often say when we're doing modifications of a yoga pose or practice for pregnancy. One is, does the posture make more space for baby or less? The goal is to make more space with any posture. 2, how does the posture feel for the pregnant person today? Does it feel comfortable and right today? Because that can change day to day. And then 3, is the posture putting any excessive outward pressure on the belly area? So all of the abdominal muscles and the fascia and everything that kind of holds baby in as baby's growing, along with the organs and everything inside. We don't want to put any excessive pressure up. There's already enough pressure with baby pushing everything out. So we're trying to stay away from poses that do that. So you'll maybe hear me reference, and as I make some changes to the more traditional sun salutation, I might be referencing those different rules of thumb as to why we're making the change for what we're doing. So we'll just dive right in. We'll get started with the first one on the floor, and then we'll move on from there. So all of these have an option. For anything that we have here is just a variation. It's not a right or wrong variation. You may come up with some other variations, some other options that work best for you and your clients, and that's great. These are just some ideas to kind of get you going to see where you can go from there. I'm going to, in general, do these about 3 times each as I walk through them. The first one will be just a short thing, something that might be referred to as a sun breath. It'll just kind of be moving sort of in that up and flat back position. The second time through, we'll add some movement that might resemble something like, it'll be like a cat-cow, possibly with a down dog or a child's pose that would resemble that more vinyasa flow. And in the third variation, we'll add in an optional lunge. You can take, again, any portion of this as you're doing your practice with your students and combining them however you see fit. All right, so we'll get started with the first practice that's completely on the floor. So I like to start in hero pose or some variation therein. I can always sit on a block or a pillow, a bolster, something that feels okay. We're not seated on these feet real long, but moving through it. So if it's more comfortable to sit on a block or have sat there, that's great. We'll start with an inhale, coming up on our knees, lifting arms up overhead. And then as we exhale, we'll hinge at the hips, taking that butt back, bringing our hands to the floor. We'll inhale, finding a long neutral spine. Exhale, maybe we come down with our forearms to the floor, maybe to more of a full child's pose, and then we'll inhale and lift back up, and exhale, hands to our heart or to our belly. So as we're in this hero pose, depending on where the person is in pregnancy, they might need to keep their legs a bit wider to make more space for baby, or they just maybe don't come down quite as far. Again, no right or wrong, it's just whatever feels right for the day. Let's do that again. We inhale, lifting arms up. Exhale, down, folding forward, hands down. Inhale, finding a long neutral spine. Exhale, maybe palms come down, maybe it's more of a full child's pose. We'll inhale, coming to hands and knees, finding our long flat back. We exhale, tucking our tailbone for that angry cat. From here, we'll sit back as we inhale, lifting arms up overhead. And exhale, hands to heart or to baby. Let's do it again. We'll add in our lunge. Inhale, lift. Exhale, coming down. We'll inhale, finding long neutral spine, reaching the chest forward, pulling our neck open. Exhale, coming down. Some variation as we lower toward the ground. Inhale, reach forward, long neutral spine, reaching the chest forward again. Exhale, waddling baby in that mad cat position. Here's where we can add our lunge. We inhale, We can swing, well, I'll take the left just so we can see a little easier. We can swing that foot off to the side. Might not feel great to bring that foot to the middle since we have baby. So we can swing that foot off to the side, more of like a lizard lunge. Option to keep the toes out or pointing in as long as our knee is pointing in that same direction. We can stay down or inhale and lift. Maybe an arm comes up overhead, maybe both arms. Exhaling, hands down. And then we bring that foot back around and exhale. Let's take an inhale, do the other side. Opposite foot comes forward. Again, you can swing it around the side or bring it up, but probably will be on the outside of the hands to make space for baby. You can hold here, or if your student would like, they can inhale, lifting arms up overhead. And exhale, hands to heart. Back down. And we'll take that cat-cow one more time, excuse me, flat cat, inhale, finding long spine, then exhale. We'll shift our weight back into our hips as we inhale, lifting up, and exhale, hands down. So it's kind of a nice version that's not too intense, keeps you on the ground the whole time, but does keep you moving and requiring some breath work. Let's move on to a completely seated version. I'm going to move the chair here for just a minute in this position. So sometimes you get toward the end of your pregnancy and going down on the floor is just not going to happen. So this is a variation that was put together by Amber Carnes of Body Positive Yoga. I'm modifying it a little bit for pregnancy, but you'll notice it's very similar, just has a little bit of less movement of the legs. So we come to stillness, take an inhale and exhale. And when you're ready, we inhale, lift arms up overhead. Exhale, hinging forward, hands towards your thighs. You can come down as low or as high as you'd like. You don't have to go very far. We'll inhale, finding a long spine. So pressing your hands down, supporting that upper body a little bit, but lengthening your spine as best you can, finding a little space for baby. We'll exhale, forward fold. And then you have the option to roll back up or bring arms up overhead and exhale down. So that's our sun breath variation. We'll add in our version of with cat flat, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, find long neutral spine, option to extend the arms behind if that feels right for your practice today. Exhale, forward fold. We'll inhale, coming up to a few cat and flat positions. We inhale, finding some space, exhale, forward fold. Let's take that one time. Inhale, exhale. As we exhale this time, we'll come into our variation of child's pose or down dog. So from here, we can lift up and maybe we extend those arms up overhead. As if you were in down dog, you might pretend having your arms flat on the floor. Maybe they just extend up high. Or if you're into it, if you're into a child's pose, you can come with your hands on your thighs or with a pillow. So your choice there, child or a version of seated downward dog. Excellent. From here, we'll exhale, hands down to our sides, and then we can roll up. Inhale, arms up, and exhale. Excellent. So now we can add in a variation, a little bit of a variation on a lunge. We inhale, lift arms up overhead. Exhale, hinging, folding forward. Inhale, pressing the hands into your legs. We lift and find that long neutral spine. Exhale, fold. We'll come back to our flat cat. Inhale. Exhale, rounding the spine. Inhale, finding length, opening across the chest. Exhale. Excellent. Well, inhale, you can lift the leg, having your hands to help. Set it back to the side. We're kind of mimicking that lunge position. Inhale, finding that length as best you can through your back body as you're lifting. We're working a little bit with strength. And we'll exhale, hinge forward. Inhale, option to do a down dog if you'd like, or you can just move straight back, a seated down dog, or you can just move straight back into a forward fold and then rolling back up and exhaling. So you can kind of interchange those poses together. Obviously, it's a fair amount different from a typical sun salutation, but you can sort of interchange where you have your flat back, your cat flats, and then lifting a leg to mimic a lunge or having that down. Let's go on to doing one with a chair. So we're going to move the chair so that it's in a very sturdy location against the wall, perhaps. If it's, depending on how heavy your chair is, you might be able to put it completely on your mat. This one's a little bit more of a traditional sun salutation. So we'll start, for my case, I like to use this part of the chair. You could flip the chair around and use the taller portion as well. It's really kind of up to you. I'm not super tall, so using the lower part kind of works for me. But again, whatever works for your client, your patient, the student at the time, not patient, your student at the time, excuse me. All right, so here we are. Modifications for pregnancy. Of course, when we're standing, we again might have to have a little extra space between our feet. Just like when we're on the floor in our child's pose, we might have to open those legs a little further. We inhale, lift. We'll start with just the sun breath. Exhale, forward fold. This is where we change a little bit. We have our hands just flat on the chair to help support our upper body. We inhale, finding long spine, swaddling baby in. Exhale, forward fold. And then we reverse. We can roll up or lift hands up overhead and exhale, hands to heart. Let's add on a little bit. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, finding long neutral spine. Crown of the head pulls toward away from your spine, so we have that length. From here, we can step backward. We can pause here in a plank pose. That's option 1. Before we move to our down dog or variation. If plank is too much, so we're starting to get into where we're, this is a little bit of, we're starting to have the gravity pulling down and adding a little bit of excess pressure on that belly. So if you don't have to hold it in a plank pose by any means, but so generally I would say once you're like maybe halfway through your second trimester, maybe we start avoiding some of these plank positions and we just shift our weight back to down dog. So the thing that we left out here compared to a traditional sun salutation is that lowering into a chaturanga and then lifting to a cobra or upward dog. Since we have this downward pressure from gravity pulling, we're just not gonna exacerbate it by doing that. So if the student is feeling like they'd like to be challenged and maybe roughly halfway or less in their pregnancy, coming to an inclined plank like this might work well for them. Otherwise, we just shift right back to a downward dog or our variation. We'll take our step forward, inhale, reverse, arms up, exhale, hands up. Let's take it again. We can always add in that lunge. Inhale, lift, exhale, forward fold. Crown of the head toward the ground, eyes looking toward the knees as opposed to looking towards your toes. Inhale, finding that long neutral spine, swaddling baby in. So here we have the option to step back to a lunge, pausing here, finding a comfortable spot. Again, no right or wrong with this. Finding something that fits with that body, with your pregnant body today. We'll take a step back, pausing in our plank or shifting immediately back to down dog. Let's bring that same foot forward or opposite foot forward, pausing in our lunge here before we make our way back to standing. Excellent. So again, that modification from your more traditional sun salutation while using the chair is simply not taking a chaturanga and not doing an upward dog or a cobra. We're just skipping those steps, still following our breath and what works, moving into a down dog. We don't really have a great modification for removing down dog in this position. So if a student's not interested in doing down dog, I'd recommend just taking a different variation, one of the other variations we're working on today. So let's go on to using the wall. So again, another option for a student that maybe is farther along in pregnancy and just doesn't feel like getting down on the floor. Or maybe it's something they could do at work or someplace where they're standing and just don't have a chair with them or just not able to sit at that moment. Again, this is the kind of neat thing about this version is we can do a little baby cobra, a little baby back bend. Since we're standing upright, we're not, we won't be exacerbating quite so much if we were on the ground, and we won't be pushing baby at all, doing, lying on the ground or having that pull, that gravity pulling down. So we get the opportunity to add in a little back bend of the upper body in this one. So it's pretty similar to our other ones. We'll start with our fun breath, inhaling, lift. Exhale, hands come toward the wall as we slowly walk our feet backwards and hands down. So how far down? Completely up to the student. It doesn't have to be very far. You can, as far as they'd like. You can also, if the student's kind of feeling great, you could mix these together, have a couple blocks here and have hands go on blocks. We'll come to a flat back. I like to step back a little bit, pressing my hands against the wall, finding a longer spine. And again, this might vary for each student. Whatever it might look a little bit more like an L shape. I can see myself, I'm not super down low on this time, but again, just what works for that student and the participant at the time. We'll exhale again and forward fold. And then we walk our hands back up along with our feet, come to standing, and exhale, hands to heart. Let's take that again. Inhale, lift. Exhale, forward fold down. Hands walk down the wall, finding a spot that feels right today, something where you have balance, but you're able to release a little bit from the back body. We'll inhale, finding a long spine. I like to step back a little bit. Let's come toward that cobra pose. We can stop here if we'd like in an inclined plank, completely up to you and the student. And we can come forward a step or two. Hands pressing against the wall, we can reach and lift, looking, so we've got a little bit of a back bend in our upper back. Still swaddling baby in and trying not to tip our pelvis very far forward. Just having a little bit of a reach and an opening in that upper chest. We'll exhale and come back down. And then we'll inhale, walking hands back up, and exhale. Excellent. I didn't add in our down dog. Let's do that variation here. We'll inhale, lifting up. Exhale, walk those hands down. Inhale, find long neutral spine. Exhale again, forward fold. We'll inhale, walk our way toward the wall. Hands on the wall, we can pause in an inclined plank if we choose, or come forward to the wall, do a little baby back bend. And then option to add in this down dog against the wall. So this might look a little bit different than a forward fold or an inclined plank. Thinking of it more as a V shape as opposed to an L shape. Instead of focusing on the backs of the legs or the lower body as you might in a forward fold, we can think about lengthening, finding space in our upper back, our arms, our shoulders, like the armpit area. So we're thinking more about finding that space up there as opposed to finding the space in the back of the body and the legs, the lower body. Always still swaddling baby in. So we're coming up to a spot where maybe this is getting a little bit too much pressure pulling down. It depends, again, up to the pregnant person to decide what's enough for them and their body on the day and where they are in their pregnancy. But always, as always, trying to swaddle baby in, keep baby nice and close. We'll exhale and come forward. Arms lift up and exhale. So we can also add in a lunge, so we'll do that now. We'll inhale, lift, exhale, forward fold, walking hands down the wall, finding a spot that works for the body today. Inhale, finding long neutral spine, taking a step back. Exhale, we'll come forward. We can come to an inclined plank, walk forward, inhale, little baby cobra from the wall. Exhale, option to come back into a down dog. We can add a lunge if we choose on one or either side, any portion of this. Very simple, pausing, just pressing against the wall. We can take a cobra in between. Exhale, pressing back. Taking our wall cobra in between as we inhale. Exhale, we'll take one more forward fold. And then we'll inhale as we walk back and exhale, hands to heart. So again, not quite a sun salutation, but kind of similar, something that gives an option for a pregnant person that might work for their body today. Last but not least, a little more of a traditional sun salutation, but we're using blocks. So with this, we do go up and down. So we have our changing levels, which might work for someone and might not. We'll do it as safely as we can using the blocks. And instead of going into a full plank, again, we don't want to put that extra pressure, especially later in pregnancy. We'll stick to hands and knees, stick with our cat and cow. We don't want to smush baby by going down toward the floor, and we don't want to put that extra pressure on the belly. So we'll stick with our cat flat on our hands and knees. But we'll use the blocks to help us get up and down from the floor to give us a little extra leverage. Two options for getting up and off the floor. So we'll demonstrate both. One, I'll work my way backward, and one, I'll work my way back forward. So we'll see as we go. We'll start with our sun breath. Inhaling, lifting arms up. Exhale, hinging forward. Hands come down towards your blocks. Blocks have 3 heights. They're at the tallest for me right now. Inhale, find long neutral spine. Exhale, forward fold, crown of the head toward the floor. Maybe you nod your head yes, shake your head no. All right, from here, we're going to make our way down toward our hands and knees. You might shift the blocks to a lower level depending on where you're at. Coming down one knee at a time, slowly as you need, doesn't have to rush. You can keep the blocks there if you'd like, or move them out of the way. We'll inhale, finding long spine, exhale, belly to spine. We can take that one more time, inhale and exhale. Then student has the option to come to child pose, separating the legs, finding some space for baby, or a down dog. Again, this is completely up to the student. Now, slight change from a typical sun salutation. We'll come back to hands and knees. Hands come on the blocks. So to make our way back up, I like to have the blocks here. Student might not feel they need it, but again, completely up to them. Bringing one foot up, bringing the other foot back up to the front. So our hands are on our blocks to have that support. And then we can inhale, finding long neutral spine, coming up, and exhale, hands to heart. Let's try that again. We'll go up, we'll exit out a different way this time. Inhaling, lift, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, find long neutral spine. Exhale, bringing one foot back down to the knee, second foot back down to the knee, moving your blocks to a position that you like. Waddling baby in, we'll take a long neutral spine. As we inhale, we exhale to that mad cat position. We'll take one more inhale and then shift to down dog or child pose. Coming back down to hands and knees. So this is where just a second option for exiting out if coming up the other way doesn't feel great. Tucking your toes in that quadruped position, shifting backwards. Bringing your hands with you, hands to thighs, stepping up, inhaling, and exhaling, hands to heart. Kind of one of those things that some people might prefer and feel more stable and steady going up, sort of back up the normal way using the blocks. Some people might feel like moving backwards and shifting into their hips, doing kind of that squat position to come up, feels more steady for them. Let's take it one more time and we'll just add in a lunge. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, finding long neutral spine. Exhale, we'll bring one leg back, the other leg back. We're going to add the lunge in this position. Instead of adding it in a typical sun salutation, you might add the lunge as you're coming down. Here, just for safety's sake, coming to all fours first, then bringing that foot up and around to the outside. Similar to what we did before. Hands can come to the blocks if we choose to help us up, or maybe the student doesn't feel like they need the blocks, and that's fine too. We'll come back, we'll take our cat and cow, our cat and flat, we just can't not say it. We'll swing our opposite leg around, So again, it's on the outside of my hand, outside of my foot. I'm going to press into a block to help me come up. Exhale, hands coming back down. We'll take one more cat flat here, inhaling long spine, exhale, swaddling in. Yogi's choice, coming back to a child's pose or downward dog. Maybe we pause for an extra breath or two just after all that movement. And then again, to get back up, coming through all fours first. You can come, as we did before, having our blocks handy. We can step up. Find an inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Reverse swan dive up. And I'll demonstrate that other one just one more time. So I'm going to come back to the floor instead of using blocks and going forward. So we just came out of our child's pose or our down dog into all fours, tucking our back toes, shifting our weight backwards, coming through a squat, hands come to our sides. Inhale, lift, exhale, hands back. There you go. So a fast little version of 5 variations on a sun salutation that might work for a pregnant person. Like I said, you can really interchange these any way that might work for your particular prenatal class or prenatal student. Just always remembering when thinking about poses to modify, remember to make space for baby. Remember, mom, the parent is comfortable and it feels right on that day, since that might change. And then try not to put that excessive pressure by doing back bends or opening up of the belly area, particularly when you're in that downward position where we might get that extra gravity. Thank you very much. Namaste.